In this course, we are going to cover the very basics of computer programming by learning a programming language called JavaScript. JavaScript is by far the most used programming language in the world, and it's extremely in demand and profitable to learn. Besides web browsers, it's running on servers, mobile apps, IoT devices, robots. It has completely taken over the world. My name is Dimi. I have over 11 years of professional software development experience, and I invite you to join me in this learning journey where I will share my wisdom and knowledge to the best of my abilities. Let's begin. Now, you might be thinking, why should I learn to code now that AI has quote-unquote taken over the world? Here are some solid financially focused reasons. First is that AI needs human oversight. As hyped as it might be, AI is really not that powerful and useful as big tech companies would want you to believe. It makes a ton of mistakes, even when working with basic code. Also, AI is as useful as the data it has consumed, so with anything that's not extremely popular, it can't help that much. While AI can automate and help with some tasks, human decision-making is still necessary for any non-trivial project. AI doesn't replace the need for developers, it complements them. JavaScript developers, for example, can use AI tools to enhance their productivity, but they still need to write, maintain, and adapt code for real-world projects. Next, there is still a high demand for web development. Companies are still seeking skilled programmers to build and maintain their web applications. Even with AI, human expertise is still required to create, customize, and manage those apps. As of 2025, full-stack web developers are among the highest paid positions in tech. Next, freelance gigs. Web development is one of the most in-demand skills for freelancers. Great freelancers can earn from $50 per hour up to $150 per hour and even more. Next one, you can start your own tech company or product. If you're able to create something valuable like a web app, SaaS product, or e-commerce platform, you can potentially make significant revenue. AI might help, but you'll still need to develop the idea and bring it to life with your programming skills. Building on AI and automation. Knowing how to code gives you more opportunity to work with AI-driven tools. If you understand how AI can be integrated into products and services, your skills can stay very relevant and in demand. What about high-paying roles beyond development? Companies still need tech leads, software architects, product managers, and other management roles. Understanding the tech side of the business makes you very valuable to companies, and it creates trust and respect within the technical teams. And lastly, job stability. Tech is one of the few industries with strong long-term growth projections. Even in a world with increasing AI capabilities, the demand for skilled developers continues to grow. Developers with expertise in JavaScript specifically will continue to be highly sought after. Okay, hopefully you now realize that programming is still an extremely valuable skill and that it pays off to become a great software developer, even today. Let me first explain how JavaScript code runs. If you're using a computer, it's most likely running an operating system such as Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. Within the operating system, we can run different programs. A web browser like Chrome or Safari are just another program running on your operating system. Web browsers, or browsers for short, are very complex programs, but their main job is to display websites. Websites can use a programming language called JavaScript to make them interactive. Just to get this out of the way, JavaScript is not Java. They are two completely different programming languages. Do not ever confuse these two. They're not the same. They're not even similar. Keep that in mind. Also, the words website and webpage are often used interchangeably, but you can think of a website as a collection of web pages. This is not always the case, but we are going to keep it simple. Okay? So when a particular web page uses JavaScript, the browser has a special component called a JavaScript engine that reads and runs the JavaScript code. In Chrome, the JavaScript engine is called V8. If you know something about cars, you already figured out that it was named after the powerful V8 engine. To summarize with a more detailed example, we have an operating system running on a computer, Windows in this example, and then we have the web browser, which is running inside that operating system. Let's say it's Chrome. And then inside the browser, we visit a web page. The web page is delivered from the internet, specifically from a web server, which is just another computer connected to the internet. We are going to keep it simple. The web server delivers files which are necessary to construct a web page. The browser typically receives HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files, which it uses to construct the page. HTML tells the browser which elements to display, CSS tells it how to style those elements, and the JavaScript code makes the page interactive. To run this JavaScript code, a special web browser component called the JavaScript engine reads the source code, compiles it, and executes it on the web page. JavaScript can run in many other environments as well, but in this course we will focus on using it within the context of a web browser. With all that out of the way, let's start the practical learning. Welcome to the course. This course is very simple and everyone should be able to understand everything. Zero experience is needed. If you're a total beginner in computer programming or have some JavaScript experience, this course is for you. Also, if you're a seasoned programmer coming from another programming language or ecosystem, you can find a lot of new knowledge and insight here. For this lesson, you don't need to install anything. You just need an operating system running the Google Chrome browser. Start it up and let's start the lesson. So this is my Chrome browser, and like most other web browsers, it provides a JavaScript console as a part of its developer tools, where we can directly write and run JavaScript code. And we will use it in this lesson for learning the very basics of the language. I have a new tab opened here. It's just my search engine website, but I want it to become completely blank. So I type about:blank in the omnibar to get a clean starting point. After pressing enter, we get a blank web page, and now we're sure that nothing interferes with the code that we're going to write. Now that we cleared our web page, let's open the developer tools. We press the three dots to open the Chrome menu. Then we go to More Tools and pick Developer Tools. We can resize the Developer Tools panel by dragging the edge and close it by clicking the X icon in the upper right corner. I close the developer tools to show you a quicker way to show or hide it by using a keyboard shortcut. If you're on Mac OS like me, you can use Option-Command-I, or on Windows, as well as Mac OS, you can press F12 to toggle it off and on again. Now, at the very top of the developer tools, we can see various tabs, and for now, we're only interested in the console tab. Console is short for JavaScript console, and there we can write our first lines of JavaScript code. I'll expand the developer tools and zoom in by pressing Command+, Control+ on Windows. This is just so you can see everything clearly and we can finally begin writing code. Now, if you're a beginner, this is going to be very fast and leave you with many questions. That's completely fine. Just follow along as best as you can. After this crash course lesson, we will be going over everything in excruciating detail. One more thing, programming is very pedantic and precise, so you have to make sure that you type in everything exactly as I do in the videos. If that's clear, we can start coding. First thing we type into the console is the word hello, surrounded by single quotes. In programming, this is called a string. A string is a sequence of characters, HELLO in this case, which are tied together in computer memory. Okay, so this single string is code. It's very simple code, but it's code nonetheless. Pressing enter is going to output the string hello as the result. Let me explain what just happened. Whatever we typed in before pressing enter is the JavaScript console input. So our input is the string hello. Pressing enter makes the browser evaluate our input and show the results of that evaluation. Once again, the string hello is our input, which gets evaluated once we press enter, and the result of that evaluation is displayed as the output. To use this hello string in the rest of our code, we can assign it to a variable called message. The var keyword is used to declare a variable. This metaphorically stores our hello string value under a label called message. Pressing enter this time gives us undefined as the result. The evaluation result is undefined because the variable assignment statement itself does not return any value. Now if we type in the name of our newly created variable, we get the value hello. Let's declare another variable. We'll call it year, and we will leave out the assignment this time. There's nothing after the variable name. This gives us undefined as before, but I did this to show you that we can assign a value after declaring a variable. I'll assign the number 2025 to the year variable, and we get it back in the output. Now that the value 2025 is assigned to our year variable, typing the variable name gives us the value. Simple. Variables store or reference values. What happens when I misspell the word year? We get a reference error saying that yeara is not defined, which is correct. So make sure you type everything out exactly as I do in order to prevent mistakes. Correctly typing in the name of the variable year again gives us the value back as expected. What if I name my variable var? This isn't possible because var is a reserved keyword in JavaScript, and the purple coloring of the word var indicates that. If we try that, we get a syntax error. Let's clear everything out and start from scratch again. We clear the console state by refreshing the page. We can just click the refresh button and we have a clean slate. If we type in year again, we can see that it's not defined. All of our previous actions are erased. Let's refresh to clean everything out once again. We will initialize the message variable again, but this time by using the const keyword instead of var to make it a constant variable. The const keyword prevents us from reassigning our variable to a different value. If we try to reassign message to a different value, for example the string hi, we get a type error saying that we're attempting assignment to a constant variable, which is not allowed. Here's a pro tip. To simplify your code and prevent unwanted errors, always declare your variable with const unless you specifically need reassignment, which is rare. Let's make another constant variable named recipient and assign it to the string world. Typing in message gives us the message variable value, and typing in recipient gives us its value. We can use the plus sign to concatenate the values of message and recipient variables. Concatenate means to link together, and as you can see, we get a single string value as the result. It would be good to separate the two words with a whitespace, and to do that, we concatenate the value of the message variable with a literal whitespace string and with the value of our recipient variable. To add some excitement, we'll add an exclamation mark at the end, and we just performed 3 concatenations to get this nice hello world message in the output. Let's now capture this whole expression in another variable called full message. In JavaScript, we use camel case, meaning that every word in a variable name is capitalized, except the first one. So we assign our previous expression to this variable, and when we type in full message, we get this nicely formatted hello world string. So we capture this whole expression inside a single constant variable. Refresh the page and let's move on. Instead of clicking the refresh button, you can use the keyboard shortcut F5, both on Windows and Mac. We will now create a couple of variables. First one is name, and the value is Brendan Ike. That's the person who created the JavaScript programming language. If we hit Shift-Enter, the input isn't evaluated immediately. Instead, we are allowed to write multiple lines of code before submitting them for evaluation. So we will initialize another variable, birth year, and set it to 1961, that's when he was born, and another one below, alive, whose value we set to true, since he is alive in this moment. True is a special value for a data type that we haven't used before called a Boolean. Boolean data types can only have 2 values, true or false. Notice that they're typed in without any quotes. Okay, so we have 3 statements that we want to evaluate at once. In JavaScript, you can put a semicolon at the end of statements to signify that the statement is finished. But the language doesn't require it, so I don't do it. Simpler is better. We can also surround strings with double quotes. They will work exactly the same, but I like to use single quotes because again, it's simpler to look at and to type in. Simpler is better. Pressing enter evaluates these 3 statements all at once. If we now try to create a constant variable named asleep, without initializing it, we will get a syntax error. Constant variables always need to be initialized, but if we create a variable using var, we can skip initialization. In JavaScript, variables that don't have a value are assigned the value undefined. Undefined is a special value indicating the absence of a value or an uninitialized variable. I intentionally left asleep as undefined because I don't know if the man is sleeping right now or not. Okay, let me now show you another way to build strings out of other strings. Create a constant variable named person, and we will create what's called a template string by typing in 2 backtick characters. Here we can combine regular text with variable values by putting the variable names in curly braces, preceded by a $sign. We will use this to nicely format our person information from the previously defined variables. So here we are combining custom text with 4 variables. Hopefully this is very clear. The value of our person variable is a nicely formatted person description string. Clear the page again and let's move on. JavaScript allows us to group related data in a data structure called an object. Here we want to group our person data, so we declare a variable named person and create a new object by typing in the opening and closing curly braces. That's how we create new objects in JavaScript with just a pair of curly braces. Within objects, we can have properties, which are just labels for values, similar to variables. First, we declare a property name and assign a value to it by typing a colon character, and then we type in the value. So in this case, we have a person object with a single property called name, and its value is a string, which is the name of our person. And just to show you that it works, I'll use double quotes to enclose the string this time. Just to show that you can use double quotes or single quotes, it doesn't matter. To add more properties to our person object, we need to separate them with a comma. And then we add a property named birth year, spelled in camel case again, and we assign the number 1961 to it. We'll add another one, alive, and set it to true, and another one, asleep, and set it to undefined. So object properties are separated by a comma, and we can leave the trailing comma after our last property, but we don't have to, so I'll delete it this time. Pressing enter now evaluates our object variable, and typing in the variable name gives us our person object in the output. We see that JavaScript objects are displayed in a special way. We can unfold them to see the full structure. Now you might be asking, what is this prototype property? Prototype is an internal property that every JavaScript object has, but to keep things simple, we will ignore it for now. It will be explained later in the course. Okay, so typing the variable name gives us the whole object, but to access individual properties, we type in the variable name, person, and then a dot to access a property, and then the property we want to access. In this case, we want the person's name. For birth year, we type in birth year after the dot. Same for alive and asleep. If we try to get a non-existent property, hair color for example, we get undefined as the result because we didn't define it. Let's hit F5 to refresh again and talk a bit about numbers. We can perform operations on numbers in a similar way that we do in math. For example, we can add numbers 3 and 7 using the plus sign as the addition operator. Expressions can be even simpler. We can just type in a number and that's a completely valid expression, just like in math. We can use minus to perform subtraction, asterisk for multiplication. We can use 2 asterisks for raising a base number to a power. In this case, we're raising 2 to the power of 4, which is 16. And for division, we use the / operator. The order of operations in JavaScript mimics math, so 3 plus 2 times 2 plus 3 gives us 10. Because multiplication has higher precedence than addition, so 2 times 2 is evaluated first, it becomes 4, and then the addition is performed. If we have parentheses, the expression inside of them comes before anything else. In this case, the expression within the parentheses is evaluated first, then multiplication is performed, and finally addition. JavaScript can work with rational numbers as well, but sometimes they can't be exactly represented, and that's why we can get a rounding error as seen here. This is because the binary system cannot precisely represent some decimal numbers, and that's the case in most programming languages. It's not only in JavaScript. Let me show you some more interesting cases. For example, dividing 0 by 0 gives us nan, which is a special JavaScript value telling us that something is not a number. N-A-N, not a number, nan. Dividing 1 by 0 gives us infinity, and dividing -1 by 0 gives us minus infinity. Both are special values and they're not used that often. Let's play around a bit more just to show you what you could do with the language. For example, we could concatenate a string with a number, and the result is going to be a string. A string and a Boolean value gives us a string as well. If we try to use the minus operator with a string and a number, we get nan, because that operation doesn't make much sense. If we add a Boolean value true to the number 2025, true is interpreted as the number 1 and we get 2026. If we subtract a Boolean value true from the number 2025, we get 2024. If we add false to a number, we get that same number back because false is interpreted as 0. As you just saw, JavaScript is very flexible and it allows us to do many weird things, and just because we can do it doesn't mean that we should. Professional code is produced by limiting ourselves to only using the language features which are simple and easy to understand. Let's again refresh the page and learn how to use functions. The browser gives us a number of predefined built-in functions that we can directly use, and one of them is called alert. Opening and closing parentheses are used to call a function. The alert function displays a simple dialog box on the web page, which we can close by pressing OK. Additionally, we can give it a string argument, and that string value is displayed in the dialog box. Let's again initialize a variable named message and give it the value hello world as a string. We can now use this message variable as the alert argument, and its value is displayed in the dialog box. Refresh the page and let's see how to create our own functions. We create a new function by typing in the function keyword, followed by the function name, add, and the parameters in parentheses. Next, we insert a pair of curly braces, which contain the body of our function. We want our function to calculate the sum of its x and y parameters and to return that result. Now that we defined our add function, we can call it with arguments 3 and 7, for example, and that will return the result 10. This is not a very useful function, but we use it to learn how functions work. Let's create another function named multiply. Again, it has two parameters, x and y. And no surprise, it returns the product of those two parameters. Notice how we return the multiplication expression in one line. We can now call multiply by typing out its name and giving it two arguments, 3 and 7 again, and the product returned is 21. As we already saw, the web page provides us with a built-in alert function, and we can use that function inside another function. To demonstrate this, we can create a new function called browser alert, which has a single parameter called message. And this function will call the alert function with the message it received as an argument. If we now call browser alert with a hello world string, that string is going to be displayed in the alert dialog box. That was a quick intro to functions. Let's now hit F5 and take a look at the last concept in this crash course, a data structure called array. Arrays allow us to store multiple items under a single variable name. For example, we can create a variable named cars, whose value is an array, which is created by a pair of square brackets. Since we named our variable cars, let's put in some car manufacturer names inside it. BMW, Audi, Porsche. All of them are strings, of course. If we type in cars, we get the array we just created. Notice how the array items are indexed from 0 to 2. We can access individual array items by specifying their index number inside square brackets. 0 gives us BMW, 1 gives us Audi, and so on. Index number 3 doesn't exist, so the value we get by trying to access it is undefined. Arrays have built-in functions, which we can access just like object properties with a dot and then the function name. To add a new item to the end of the array, we call its push function and we give it the item inside the parentheses. The returned value is 4, which is the new length of the array. Now the index number 3 contains the value that we just added. Showing the whole cars array also makes this clear. Let's look at some more array functions. One of them is sort, which, as the name implies, sorts the array, alphabetically in this case. And we can call the reverse function to sort the array in reverse. No surprise there. JavaScript arrays don't care about the type of data they contain, so to show this, we can create a new array called random, and we can put in a string, a number, undefined, boolean, and even objects. This is a very simple object with a single name property whose value is the string Joe. Okay, and now when we get the value of random, we can see that it contains all of this different data. In this crash course lesson, we didn't even scratch the surface of what JavaScript and programming really have to offer. We touched on how JavaScript code runs, some primitive data types, arithmetic operations, variables, objects, functions, and arrays. In the following modules, we will dive deep into all of these topics and much more, but let's first have some fun and create a very simple program with the knowledge that we already have. We'll start our program with a welcoming alert that shows us a message. Welcome to the interactive greeting app. Okay, now we want to get the user's name, so we create a name variable and we will get the value by using a prompt function. Prompt makes the page show a dialog box with an input prompt for the user. The message is, please enter your name. And as you can see, we get a dialog box with a single input field. I'll type my name in and press OK. And now my name is saved in the name variable. Let's create another prompt for capturing the user's age. We ask the user, how old are you? I'll put in 33. And now let's create a custom greeting. We call alert with a template string where we will construct our custom greeting. Nice and easy program. We are now ready to do some more serious learning, so see you in the next module. Hey there, thanks for watching the course. Hopefully you found it useful, and if you did, there's more. Follow the link in the description or directly go to coursevity.com website where you can find more free lessons from this course. This is the Coursevity website. I built it from scratch, and here you can watch free lessons or buy and watch the whole course. Right now there's an early bird price for you since the course isn't finished, so you can get it at a way lower price. The course is going to be finished, I 100% guarantee that, so this is a good chance to get it for cheap. Okay, thanks once again and see you in the next video.